Have you ever noticed that the more capable you are, the less space you're given to rest? The more you handle, the more people rely on you. The more invisible your needs become. Being needed can feel like purpose until it becomes a cage. And what makes this hard to recognize is that being needed doesn't feel bad at first. It feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels like love. But today we're going to talk about why being needed often feels safer than being loved, especially for women who learned early that usefulness is equivalent to survival. Sit down, sis. Let's have a talk. Hey sis, it's Gwen. Welcome back to the channel. This is a space for real life, honest conversations, and choosing yourself. This is not a motivational video. This is a regulation conversation. So I want you to slow your body down with me. Unclench your jaw and drop your shoulders. Let your breath deepen because nothing is required of you here. Before we go any further, put one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Hold it gently and release through your mouth. Do that again. If your body feels restless, that's okay, sis. We are not trying to force calm. We are creating safety. For many women, being needed became the first way of being accepted. For many women, being needed became the safest way to belong. Not because you wanted attention and definitely not because you wanted control, but because being needed meant you were kept. When people need you, they don't leave easily. When you're useful, you're valuable. When you're dependable, you're included. So somewhere along the way, often without words, your body learned this equation. Needed equals safe. And your nervous system took notes. This by far is not a mindset issue. This is conditioning. For some of us, this started in childhood. You might have been the emotionally mature one, the helper, the fixer, the one who didn't cause trouble. You notice that when you were low maintenance, when you handle things on your own, when you made yourself useful, things felt calmer. Adults were less overwhelmed, conflict stayed lower, and you were praised for being so strong. Your body learned that if I don't need much, I'm safer. So needing others felt risky, but being needed felt powerful, and that power felt like protection. Here's the part that we don't talk about enough. Even now, as an adult, your body reacts before your logic does. When someone asks for help and you feel that immediate pull to say yes, that's not generosity, sis. That's conditioning. When rest makes you feel anxious, that's not laziness. That, sis, is survival energy with nowhere to go. When you don't know who you are outside of responsibility, sis, that's not confusion. That, sis, is a nervous system that never got to rest because nothing about you is broken. Here's the difference that we're naming today. Being needed often feels urgent. Being loved feels spacious. Being needed says, I rely on you to function. Being loved says, I want you even when you're not doing. Being needed keeps you busy, but being loved gives you rest. But if your body learned early that rest led to abandonment, then love without the man could feel very unfamiliar, even unsafe. So you stay useful, you stay available, and you stay necessary, and sis, you call that purpose. So sis, I want to ask you something. Not for an answer, just for noticing. Where in your life do you feel more needed than seen? Where do you show up out of fear of what would happen if you didn't? Just notice. No judgment. This awareness alone is already a shift. Next, we're going to talk about how being needed slowly trains women to disappear, and why letting go of that role can feel terrifying yet freeing at the same time. Stay with me, sis. You are not unraveling, you're remembering. But before we go any further, take a breath with me, sis. Hold it. Release. Let's go. If anything stirred in you during the first part, that's okay. We are not here to rip anything away. We're here to understand. Because you don't heal what you shame. You heal what you recognize. Here's where being needed becomes more than behavior. It becomes who you are. At first, you just help, and then you become the helper. At first, you just handle things, then you become the strong one. At first, you just step in when something needs to be done. Then you become the person everybody assumes will always step in. And somewhere along the way, your identity shifts quietly. Not because you chose it consciously, but because your nervous system associated functioning with belonging. So when people describe you, they say things like, she's so dependable. She's always holding everything together. And finally, I should have said this one first. I should have said this one first. I don't know what we do without her. Golden. And that right there sounds like appreciation. Until no one asks you how you are doing. People often ask, why don't you just say no? Why don't you ask for help? Oh boy, why don't you rest? But those questions ignore the deeper truth. Stopping does not feel neutral. Stopping feels dangerous. Because if your identity has been built on being needed, then stepping back feels like disappearance. Your body asks, if I'm not useful, will I still be wanted? That fear doesn't live in your thoughts. It lives in your chest, your stomach, and your breath. So you keep going, not because you want to, but because stopping feels like a loss. This is where resentment starts, quietly. Not loud, not dramatic, and definitely not explosive. It shows up as irritability, exhaustion, emotional numbness, feeling unseen, and last but not least, feeling taken for granted. And then guilt follows. Because you think, I shouldn't feel this way. They didn't ask me to do all of this. This is just how life is. But resentment isn't a moral failure. It's information. It's your body saying you're giving more than you have. Here's something that we don't name enough. Letting go of being needed comes with grief. Grief for the version of you that never rested. The years you didn't get to be held. The needs you learned to swallow. And the softness you postponed. And grief doesn't mean that you were wrong. It means something mattered, sis. You can honor what kept you safe without staying trapped in it. I'll rest after this. Or I just need to get through this season. Or I'll slow down when things calm down. But later never comes because your nervous system learned to survive chaos. Calm feels unfamiliar. Stillness feels suspicious. And rest feels undeserved. So your body stays alert, busy, and needed. And sis, you call that responsibility. Let's pause right here. Not to fix anything and definitely not to change anything. Just to notice. Ask yourself this, sis. What part of me is afraid of not being needed? No answer required, just awareness. That awareness is the beginning of freedom. Before we go any further, stop right here and take a breath with me. Because this part isn't about what you do. It's about what you allow, sis. And for many women, being wanted, not needed. That's where the nervous system tightens the most. Not because love isn't desired, but because love without demand feels unfamiliar. Sometimes even unsafe. Let's name the difference slowly. Being needed feels like pressure, urgency, responsibility, and a role you understand. Being wanted feels like choice, openness, vulnerability, and presence without instructions. When you're needed, you know exactly who to be. Because there's a script, there's a function, and there's definitely a job. But when you are wanted without expectation, without demand, and definitely without task attached, your body asks, what do I do now? Who am I supposed to be? And if you never learn how to simply just be, that openness can feel terrifying. If love in your past came with conditions, be good, be helpful, don't need too much, don't make things harder, then your nervous system learned. Love must be earned. When someone offers presence without requirement, care without conditions, and attention without explanation, and attention without expectation, your body doesn't relax, it braces. Not because anything is wrong, but because your system doesn't recognize this pattern. Safety is familiarity, not help. Being needed lets you hide behind usefulness, but being wanted asks you to be seen. Seen without armor, seen without achievement, and seen without explanation. And that kind of visibility can feel exposing, because if you're not performing, if you're not fixing, if you're not holding everything together, what if they see your tiredness, your uncertainty, and your softness? What if they leave? So instead of risking that, many women choose unconsciously being needed because at least it gives them control. Here's something important. Being wanted introduces choice, and choice requires trust. Trust in yourself, your worth, and your ability to be loved without earning it. If your body never experienced safe choice, then obligation can feel more stable than freedom. Freedom asks you to listen inward, while obligation tells you exactly what to do. So your system chooses the familiar. Let's reframe this. Being wanted is not a test. It's an invitation. It doesn't ask you to prove. It asks you to arrive. You don't have to know how to receive it perfectly. You just have to notice when it shows up and let your body breathe instead of bracing. Repeat this quietly with me, sis. I do not have to perform to be loved. I do not have to earn presence. I am allowed to be chosen as I am. Take a moment here. Where in your life have you been needed? When what you really wanted was to be seen. Just notice. No fixing. No pressure. If you've made it this far, pause with me, sis. Not because you're tired, but because your nervous system has been working. This part is not about becoming someone new. It's about unhooking from roles that once kept you safe, but no longer let you rest. You don't have to rush the release. We're just loosening the grip. For many women, usefulness did not start as a choice. It started as survival. Being helpful meant less conflict, more approval, a sense of belonging, and a reason to stay. Over time, usefulness stopped being something you did and became something you were. So, when you're not needed, it can feel like you're disappearing. But usefulness is a role, not an identity. And sis, roles are allowed to change. Here's the part people don't talk about. When you stop overgiving, some people get uncomfortable, some dynamics shift, and some relationships reveal their limits. And that can feel scary. But discomfort doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It often means you're no longer abandoning yourself to keep the peace. The goal here is not to stop caring, but to stop self-erasing. Let's make this practical. Safety without obligation feels like silence without tension and rest without guilt. Saying no without rehearsing an explanation. Being quiet without being punished. At first, your body may not trust it. You might feel restless, anxious, and like you should be doing something. And that's okay. That's not failure. That's detoxing from performance. Being wanted is a skill, and skills are learned during repetition, not perfection. Start small, sis. Accept that compliment without deflecting. Let somebody help you without micromanaging. Sit in presence without filling the space. Notice what comes up. Breathe through the urge to perform. Let that moment pass without fixing it. Receiving is not passive, it's brave. Guilt often appears when you stop meeting expectations that were never fair. That guilt isn't a signal to go back. That sense is a sign that you are changing. Ask yourself, is this guilt about harming someone or about disappointing them? There's a difference. You are allowed to disappoint people who benefited from your self-neglect. Here's the grounding truth, sis. You do not owe usefulness in exchange for love. You do not owe exhaustion in exchange for belonging. You do not owe silence in exchange for peace. Your presence is enough. Your being is sufficient, and your rest is sacred. Say it with me, sis. I am worthy without being needed. Before we close, try this, sis. Place a hand on your chest and take one slow breath. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to be chosen? Not for what I provide, but for who I am. You don't need an answer. Just notice the sensation. That's where healing lives. If this video resonated with you, it's not because you're broken, sis. It's because you're waking up. Waking up to the truth that you were never meant to earn rest. You were never meant to perform for love. And you were never meant to disappear to be accepted. You are allowed to be wanted. You are allowed to be held. You are allowed to exist without explanation. Keep choosing yourself, sis. And I'll see you next time.